Hey everybody. Big up your nice clean selves. Welcome one, welcome all to my live. We have to talk about some things tonight because no sir. Big up your nice clean selves. Thank you so much everyone for joining me. I know it's a bit late, not my usual time, but yeah, I felt like I needed to come on for a little bit. Let me hail up everybody in the classroom before we get started. Guys, for some reason, my camera is not being picked up. I think I need to restart my laptop, but I cannot be asked. So I'm going to leave it for tonight, right? So Kathy, big up yourself. I see you. Professor Gorgeous Lady, good afternoon. Sonia Pink, big up yourself. Patricia Blint, big up yourself. I see you. Yvette Sharp, thank you so much for attending class tonight. And as Professor Gorgeous Lady says, please hit the like button. Jay Lee. Jay Lee say, HTK got to send my bun and cheese come to Canada. No, sir. Listen, everybody are complaining about shipping. Me can't bother them. Some of them is a lady when I like pay shipping, you know. If the shipping not free, me no want to look. You can head over to Nanalyn Jerks. She has some nice bun and cheese there for you. Tasty cheese and all these things, birdie bone and all these things. So you can go check her out. She's in Canada. Hopefully it will get to you. I doubt it will get to you on time now though, Jaylee. Big up yourself, Jeanette. Big up yourself. I see you. Norma, what's up, sis? How are you doing? Stacy says, hello, everyone. Blessings. Big up yourself, J. Empress, Charmaine Walker, Judith Bailey, Steph B. Hello, hello. Marked on the register, present and accounted for. I like that. Laurie Gordon, big up yourself. Yes, yes, yes. Gals so nice. Big up yourself. Tatiana Shelton, what's up? Yvette Sharp, Wagwan. I see you all present and accounted for. Look here. So remember, we did a little live where we were talking about the situation with 119, the TikToker, who was charged with malicious communication. He subsequently came out and, with guns blazing, letting people know that, listen, he's glad for the challenge. He's all excited about going to court, etc., etc. But do you know that he has subsequently done yet another video? Because it look like say him go do some reading and him go do some research and realize say him in a problems. Yes, my loves, him in a problems because now he's trying to raise funds on his platform, and he's trying to raise these funds, his legal funds, in order to challenge the law in the courts with the intention of trying to overturn it on behalf of the Jamaican people. It doesn't quite work like that. I strongly suggest he starts a petition as soon as possible and trying to get as many to sign it. But other than that, it's not going to work quite like that in just an individual case. So he is now realizing that this malicious act that he has been charged for is a big deal. Yes, it's a big deal because what he failed to realize was that the Cybercrimes Act had several recommendations made in 2023 by the Joint Select Committee. When they reviewed it, they wished to include things like cyber stalking, cyber defamation, cyber threats, cyberbullying, webjacking, phishing, spoofing, spamming, and social engineering. All of those things were presented in Senate on the 8th of December of that year. They were basically saying that the Cybercrimes Act, which was dated in 2015, did not quite include all of those things. She wanted to look particularly at, and this is Dr. Morris Dixon, who opened the debate. She wanted to look at particular acts that included things like, child PORNOGRAPHY prevention, Defamation Act, Education Act, Larceny Act, the Law Reform, the Obscene Publications Act, the Offenses Against the Persons Act, the SO Act, and the TERRORISM Prevention Act, and pull things across into the cybersecurity legislations. right? So several things were recommended, and obviously they pulled out what they wanted to, had their debates in Parliament, and decided to make certain changes to the Cybersecurity Act. And it looked like say Mr. Man now realize say him do something where definitely are gonna make him end up with some serious charges. And we're talking about millions of dollars in fines or up to 20 years in prison. You understand? So subsequently, Section 9 offenses were added to the Cybersecurity Act. And this was prepared in May 2017, but it got added to the Act after and given the thumbs up after that debate. So let me tell you about the Malicious Communication Section 9 Cybercrimes Act that this man could very well be found guilty of. It says that there are 3 ingredients that must be proved by the material presented to an investigator before a prosecution can be initiated under this section. These are that a person used a computer to send to another person data, that the data sent is obscene and constitutes a threat or is menacing in nature. These terms are not defined by the legislation. Material that is obscene is of a sexual nature or offends against society's morality and tends to deprave or corrupt minds open to immoral influences and into whose hands these publications fall. Now I'm going to share the document with you because I don't want you thinking that I'm talking out of thin air. I want you to see it for yourself. Hold on one second. Because a whole heap of people need to be made very much aware of this. You like listening and frying fish. You know, some fish season, I'm not gonna lie. I have not fried my fish, people. I have not. I sort out a season my sprat. I season my snapper them. And me not fry nothing. But you see, my household, we do not eat before 12. We eat after. So I'm just like, I'm going to fry it after. I'm going to be the black sheep of the community and not do it tonight because I like my fish freshly fried. What I will do is I'll prepare the the way you call it there, the escovitch sauce. I'm going to do that tonight before I go to bed so that it's nice and spicy by tomorrow. But I refuse to fry my fish tonight. No. I'm going to be a rebel. So anyway, let me share this with you. All right, there we go. Can we all see that? I'm going to make it bigger. Yeah. Let me just remove this. Let me hide that. Okay, so we should be able to see that nice and clear. Now, give me a thumbs up if you can. Big up your nice clean self, Arlene Scott. I see you, Janet George from Nick's Kitchen. Her Lexia, big up your nice clean self. Misty Brown, what's up? I see you, Arlene. Big up yourself. Chevelin, no, sweetheart, you're not late at all. No. We're just going to the meat of the matter. We are explain why 119 in a problems. Yeah? I'm mega play for you little later the evidence. Because what I couldn't find or locate, and big up your nice clean self, my inner John shop sis, you know who you are. I'm not allowed you up too much. But you sent me the 2 videos. Some people have only seen 1, but now I've seen 2 that this man has put out on his platforms that no doubt has led to this. It is alleged that this may very well be the female who placed the charges on him. But anyway, let's go into.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
But what do Alexa? What talk to you, ma'am? Tap your nice. Anyway. So it says here that the data sent is obscene or constitutes a threat or is menacing in nature. These terms are also not defined by the legislation. Material that is obscene is of a sexual nature or offends against society's morality and tends to deprave or corrupt minds open to immoral influences and into whose hands these publications would fall. Now, I want you to pay attention to this particular part, right? And we're going to show you just how what he did actually fits this category. Then it says threatening material is material that intimates that harm, danger, or punishment will befall a person and may be similar to a menace. I'm not quite certain he necessarily fits into that category. Material that is menacing in nature tends to threaten with harm or danger. Now, that is possible based on what I've heard. And that the material, which is either obscene or a threat or menacing in nature, or all three, or a combination of the three, was sent with the intention to harass any person or cause harm or the apprehension of harm to any person or property. This is quite wide, people. It's very, very wide, right? In terms of the impact of the material, because you not only have with the intention to harass or cause harm, but the apprehension of harm. In other words, if the person feel like they could be harmed, they have a feeling, then it would constitute an offense. So let's keep going. Intention may be proved by direct evidence such as statements of the suspect showing their intention, or it may be inferred from all of the circumstances. Oh boy. These three elements referred to above must all exist in order for a Section 9 offense to be created. It is also clear from this section that there is no requirement for the material published to be false. Look here, so. Because when he addressed that in his latest video, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So you're trying to tell me that people can be telling the truth and still get arrested? Yes, my loves. Pay attention. The law says it is also clear from this section that there is no requirement for the material published to be false or cause harm to a person's reputation, and the like, and as such fall under the heading of defamation. Miras. What? A Section 9 offense may exist even where a statement is true, which takes it outside the tort of defamation. So they have distinguished, listen carefully. Defamation is when you are saying things that are definitely not true, okay? All right. And they are causing harm to the person's character and reputation, right? But a Section 9 offense, which is the malicious communications offense, could very well be true. Now, when I saw that, I said to myself, no, man. So people can say things were really gossip, and it still result in you being arrested. So his initial argument was that he was going to come out here and he was going to, beat up his chest and say, well, how can somebody arrest me or charge me with something that is true? And he's thinking in his head, all he has to do is to come out here and prove the truth. And it would result in him overturning these charges and giving him the opportunity to sue the police. But he's now done his investigation because his latest video shows a very different 119. Hey, a very different 119 to the 119 from before. Because now he's realizing that this is not a situation where he may have lied in order to defame, and therefore he has to prove that he's telling the truth. This is a situation where even the truth can cause an offense. Pay attention. Boy, may I tell you, so this is, as much as this is a very far-reaching law, it sounds like serious censorship. But what I'm trying to say is that there are so many social media personalities I know of who reside in Jamaica, be it partly in Jamaica, partly in America, who have got people in the islands or who are citizens in the islands who would visit on occasion, who still have their passport and their Jamaican citizenship, that could very well be arrested upon landing in the country just for this. Anyway, category 1, the transmission of data which is obscene. Okay. So we're talking about things like obscene writings, drawings, photographs, and distribution thereof, right? So you're talking about obscene images on the internet. That would, that could give a penalty of I think that says $40, which is not a lot, paltry sum. Yes, it remains at the paltry sum of Jamaican $40. Now that's ridiculous. So basically, if somebody distributes or owns and distributes obscene writings, drawings, or photographs of somebody. So say, for example, the person naked and then send out them picture there. The penalty, if convicted, remains at the paltry sum of Jamaican $40. Yes, that is nothing. So when you see people doing things like that in Jamaica, which is over here, yeah, that's considered revenge PORN. That's a big deal, and you can get something hefty over here. But over there, it's nothing. $40. Yes. So obscene is not defined by the Cybercrimes Act. The definition of obscenity stated by, and they quote their source, was the test of obscenity is this: whether the tendency of the matter charged as obscenity is to deprave and corrupt those whose minds are open to such immoral influences and into whose hands a publication of this sort may fall. Now, this is a very intense reference. And obviously, what they're working with, because they haven't defined anything, they're taking the definition from somewhere else, another source. Now, you're talking about what would be considered obscene is what corrupts and depraves the minds open to the immoral influences. So, in other words, your audience on social media would be the minds that would be open to immoral influences. And anybody who has or shares this information are those whose hands the publication of this sort falls into. So if I watch a video, then I am open to immoral influences and my mind has been corrupt. Therefore, yes, it can be considered obscene. If I then turn around and type, my God, what a dirty man, what a nasty so-and-so, because I'm being influenced by what you are putting out there. You understand? So when people up on them platform and them say, and then people in the comments are actually listening and agreeing and, add fire to the flame. These people have fallen under immoral influence because of the obscene content that you have put out. Mighty God. Right, I shall skip here. And then they talk about threats, it's more about threatening to take a life more than anything else. Okay, so we'll skip that part because that part is not relevant under those circumstances. We talk about menaces, right? So this section prohibits the sending of data which is threatening or menacing in nature. The Cybercrimes Act does not define the term menace, and as such, the common law definition will be applicable in the interpretation of the statute. So they're taking their definition from the common law definition, okay? However, where the prosecution is seeking to prove that the message is of a menacing nature, before proceeding with such a prosecution, prosecutors should heed the words of the Lord Chief Justice, and then they refer to the case and the paragraph where he said, a message which does not create fear or apprehension in those to whom it is communicated, or may reasonably be expected to see it, falls outside, for the simple reason the message lacks menace. So, in which case they're then saying that a message with menace is the opposite of this. So a message with menace creates fear, creates an apprehension of fear in those that it is communicated with, which is what I said at the beginning. This is about if I feel afraid. So me can't just come and bawl out and say, listen, me feel scared. Yes? That message you put out, that information you put out, make me fear for my life. Then menace will apply. Hey, listen. Listen. 119, you're going to pay through your nose for the things that you say, brother. Just saying these things in a country whose malicious communication law is extremely broad. It can include any and everything. Brother, me not think you have a chance with this one at all. I don't think you stand a chance. Pick up yourself, Debbie Jervis. Could it be that the truth is being used in a malicious way? Yes, it can. So we're gonna get into this, because I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to go through what he said. Right? That could get him into serious problems. But anyway, let us continue. The high threshold at the evidential stage. All right. So where was I? Okay. So the case of this cited, and they give all the legal cases where he stated in the context of a message which was menacing that fairly plainly is a message which conveys a threat. In other words, which seeks to create fear or in or through the recipient that something unpleasant is going to happen. Now, pay attention to this part where it says, which seeks to create a fear in or through the recipients. Okay? So what do we mean by through the recipients? So the person who the message is intended for, they receive the message. They feel like they're fearing for their life, or they're fearful, right? Now, that's creating a fear in. If it's creating a fear through the recipient, it means that other people who are incommunicado or in the presence thereof, the recipients, might feel afraid or feel threatened based on what was said to the recipient. That something unpleasant is going to happen. Now, that something unpleasant might not necessarily happen to the recipient, but might happen to other people around that recipient. I want you to listen to that part very carefully, because you're going to see how it's relevant. Okay. So, prosecutors ought to bear in mind that what is prohibited under Section 9 of the Cybercrimes Act 2015 is the sending of data which is threatening, menacing, or obscene. Therefore, a communication that is sent has to be more than simply offensive to be contrary to the criminal law. It has to more than offend. Just because the content expressed in the communication is offensive, meaning done in bad taste, controversial or unpopular, or defamatory, this is not a sufficient reason to engage the criminal law. So this is about what the Lord Chief Justice said. He stated in relation to the Section 127 of the Communications Act in 2003 UK, which prohibited communication that was grossly offensive, as follows. Satirical or iconoclastic or rude comments, the expression of unpopular or unfashionable opinion about serious or trivial matters, banter or humor, even if distasteful to some or painful to those subjected to it, should and no doubt will continue at their customary level, quite undiminished by, and it gives the section of the Communications Act in the UK. So in other words, remember yesterday when we were talking, can't remember. And we said, but everything that we were listening to, as much as it was offensive, as much as it was upsetting, and to some of you not funny, it was satirical. And it may have been rude and it may have been in poor taste. But some of it had banter, some had humor, and it may have even been distasteful or painful to those subjected, i.e. the 1-year-old little baby. Yes? In that, I never heard anything that was menacing. I never heard anything that was threatening. I never heard anything that was obscene, in that content. So I was struggling to try to find what it was. But as I said, I've received it now. And boy, 119, I don't know. You're in problems. You're in problems, brother. You're in problems. As a journalist, you should know better. This is not good. Anyway, so in Jamaica's legislative context, Section 9 is specific in that it prohibits obscene communication and therefore it is not concerned with whether the communication is offensive, but whether it has a tendency to deprave and corrupt. So in other words, it's about the impact of what you say on other people. It is about the impact of what you say on other people, how other people will react to this information that you have placed out there. And is on this basis, I am thinking that this man is going to face severe consequences. He's going to face it. So hold on. So let's see what C-Click says. I'm sure it's gonna boil down into a small fine, nothing big of a deal. But after 119 never said anything threatening. No, that is what I said. The threatening part of it, because the threatening part is specifically attached to threat to loss of life. In the act, and I've not seen or heard anything that was threatening, but the other things do apply. Remember, at the very start, when it was breaking down about malicious communications, it said it can be one of the three things, or a combination of the three things, or a combination of less than the three things. So in other words, it could be obscene, it could be menacing, but not threatening, and it would still be considered malicious. You understand? Carla says, good afternoon, Miss K. Did you see the last video he did telling lies on a hardworking young lady put out where she lives? Yes, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna listen to, Carlos, as much as, yeah, we're gonna listen to it. We are going to listen to it. Because it's important people see why it is that this guy has crossed the line pretty seriously. So prosecutors must bear in mind that before a decision is taken to prosecute, the context in which the communication is sent is of utmost importance in determining whether there exists evidence of a criminal intent to harass any person or cause harm or the apprehension of harm to any person or property. Now, remember, one of the things that we said was that this thing is very broad, because apprehension of harm, what measuring factors are they using to determine the intensity of the apprehension? You understand? How are they measuring it? But anyway, the Cybercrimes Act requires proof of an intention to cause harm or the apprehension of harm, and this is the highest level of subjective mens rea. Now listen carefully, because if you are a content creator, then your proof is literally your content. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So they won't really have to look very far. Recklessness or negligence concerning whether the sending of the information would cause harm is insufficient. So recklessness or negligence concerning whether the sending of the information would have caused harm is insufficient. This is a critical consideration before a decision to prosecute is made. In the context of social media, where communication may be sent as banter, jokes, or even careless commentary, there must be evidence of a criminal intent. So in other words, did 119 deliberately try to cause harm, to cause a menace, to put out obscene information about someone? Was it intentional? Well, based on the fact that I have not just seen one, but I've seen 2 videos, it simply suggests that it was indeed intended. In addition to that, the videos he put out also included the visual image of the female from St. Catherine that we are suspecting. We're not saying it's her because we don't know. We don't have proof. We don't have proof this is the woman. But we are suspecting heavily that this could be the case that has triggered the charge. Anyway, let's keep listening. So, once again, in the context of social media where communication may be sent as banter, jokes, or even careless commentary, there must be evidence of a criminal intent. Therefore, due regard will have to be given to the surrounding circumstances in which the message or data was sent to satisfy this element of the offense. Boy, that sound wide, didn't it? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean about that? In the context of social media where communication may be sent as banter, jokes, or careless commentary, there must be evidence of a criminal intent. So, the criminal intent part, how do they prove that? But anyway, let's go. So, let's talk about the consequences that can be faced. So prosecutors and law enforcement should be mindful that communications via computers, and in particular via the use of social media, is so vast in the 21st century that it cannot be quantified. It is truly global and without any borders at the click of a button. Without adhering to these guidelines, law enforcement, the prosecuting authority, and possibly members of the public who are potential complainants could run the risk of placing a large number of cases in the court arena, which at first blush may pass the public interest test, but when closely examined within the context of the guidelines would not pass the evidential test, and therefore would not form the basis of a viable case to prosecute. It behoves all of us to remember that the process of assessing whether a matter should be prosecuted cannot be viewed backways. That is from public interest to the evidential test. It must be emphasized that the evidential test, as previously described, must be passed before one considers the public interest test. So, evidence over people feelings, basically. There is no room for emotion or anything else that is extraneous to the considerations previously outlined. That is the ethical imperative under which prosecutions are bound to take place. Always remember that the burden of proving the case beyond a reasonable doubt in court rests on the shoulders of the prosecution, and it never shifts. Yes. So I wonder what Paula Llewellyn will say about this case. I wonder. The ultimate consequence of placing a matter before the criminal court that does not satisfy the evidential test will mean that a case will be thrown out. So hopefully he's able to prove that there was no criminal intent. But honestly, when I saw those two videos, guys, I'm very doubtful. I'm very doubtful. Very, very doubtful indeed. Okay, so that's about the prosecutors. Okay. So, like I said, the consequences of this could be up to 20 years in prison, and several millions in fines. Yeah, which is quite heavy. But as I said, there's so much to this that meets the eye. So we're gonna listen to the videos, because this is the part that will make or break the decision. Because when I listened to it, I was like, what the hell? That brother serious. Like, how could he come online and say these kind of thing about people? But anyway, I saw it go. All right, so that was one of them. Hold on, people. I'm gonna go for. All right, so let's look at. Okay. So he didn't do just one, he did more than one video about this. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear.
To me. All me sitting come like tough rotten off for me. It stink, it smell weird. And some whitey sitting and come out of it. Me don't know to me. From me go around that gala, Crystal Allen, so she name. Me don't know.
So the first thing he did was he put up the picture of the girl when he introduced and was talking about his parts smelling funny. Then he put up a subsequent picture, and on this subsequent picture, he then called out her full legal name. All right.
Cause this for me. But, Sierra, if I ever sit me, you give me. If me ever contract sitting for you, I want a good up your man, me I tell you. Anybody, when you know good science, man, you know inbox me. Because if I ever sitting, that girl give me. When I reach a St. Mary, St. Thomas, all 80, if me have to go 80 for her. Because I don't want to me something. Me think not work right. It's just like, me I go to the doctor, you know. And when me go to the doctor, if the doctor ever tell me, say, has something to me from this girl, because from me go around her, I pay things, me I make sure come and show everybody. Because I don't want a man go around her. I don't go around that girl. And this is
Okay, so remember we spoke about harm, experiencing harm through the intended recipients of the malicious communication, harm to other people. Okay, so he is now warning other men to avoid this lady. He has the lady's face up, and then he says her full legal name. So right away, other people will feel threatened by her very presence, because he's telling other men, avoid this woman because based on what is happening to him with his health. And he has not confirmed that this woman has even given him anything. But he is implying that having been with her intimately, something wrong with him downstairs. You understand? Yes.
girl we work with Shaggy, you know. And Shaggy she work with, not Shaggy the artist. Shaggy the policeman, the brother with the security for. All like top show them and them thing they do security for. Him she work with. Anybody know Shaggy? Make you know say if it try stay far from her.
He has now also called out where she works or who she works with. He hasn't said the name of the workplace, but he has now mentioned who she's affiliated with professionally. You hear what me I say? So he might give some serious details connected around this person. Remember, one of the things, the clauses, was intent to harm. All right. Now, if she is seen as this kind of person that may have some kind of infectious disease, and she's working with top people, is that a good look for the company? Is that a good look for her to be, around these stars? Is she a potential risk? You understand? You see what I'm saying and where I'm going with this. But anyway, listen.
Yeah, I tell you the way my things smell, I know it come like it a drop off. Like in a minute now it just all drop off. I don't see some sitting pan it. I want pee-pee, I'm afraid for pee-pee. And when I go in the bathroom to go bathe, I'm afraid to take you out because I stink up the whole bathroom. I hope when I go to the doctor office, the doctor have to put on a mask.
Oh, Jesus.
I hope the doctor can't stomach it. Because I'm going to take you out in the doctor office, the whole place I got stink. All the people, the other people, in the doctor office, then go have to run out. When me take out this, when me wheel out this, the doctor have to go skin it to him and look when it good, so me know the whole place I got stink. Me no know what happened to me. From me go round that girl here, Crystal Allen.
Jesus.
I don't know what the hell is reaching me. Me I feel like something can sit all on my belly button. And a beer win. And the wind every time I poop, it stink. Stink. You know, like dead body.
Jesus.
I saw me poop then stink. From me go around this here girl. All kind of things start happening to me all of a sudden. Me feel all my stomach upset. Then I get like, me say, then I get like, you have to be careful who you put yourself with.
Hmm.
And you have to be careful. No eat from them. No eat from them.
So remember, intent to harm. So no, it's moved now from just her as an intimate partner. It's now moved to her and cooking for other people. So this now creeps into her household. Listen to what I'm saying.
Them a put them blood.
Hear they?
Them a put them blood in a man food. No for them a do it. I put them period in a man food, in a your food. None of them from them. None of them no stew peas. No rice and peas. Nothing red. And none of them not brown either because when the blood get away, it might become browny. None of them no stew chicken. No stew chicken. No turkey neck. No stew beef. No brown stew fish. And if you are vegetarian, none of them no veggie chunks. No drink no soya sauce. Because if I have soya sauce, I don't say, a blood not drink. A soya blood. I think a soya sauce. And I drink.
That is so terrible. Like this guy. So this woman, all right, let us play devil's advocate for a minute. Say, for example, it's true what he experienced with her, right? And he may have contracted something. That are between man and woman. You understand? You went there, I'm assuming recklessly, for you to end up in the situation that you're in. And therefore also responsible for your own reckless behavior. And you go and you may have contracted something. Man and woman situation. Why you not tell the woman 1-to-1 and let her know situation happen and we need to go get checked? Why come on here, create a whole series of videos where you're calling out the woman legal name, you're referring to where she works, and you're also now implying that she's using guzu in our food and that people must not eat from her. You are destroying her potential to move on. You're making sure that anybody that has any potential interest will not have any interest. So you're destroying her character. You're also making it clear that she's not to be trusted. You're putting men on the alert that they must avoid her. This is permanent damage. And Jamaica we live in right now. And Jamaican people not take them things here very lightly at all. Yes, if she has children, they're going to be afraid and ashamed at school. There is so much harm that is far reaching beyond just this lady. And him putting up her picture at the same time is a criminal intent in that he intended for this lady's name to be dragged in the mud. He intended for the public to know that this is the lady he's talking about. He intended to actually ruin her career because he's made reference to her work. He's intended to ruin her future relationships. And he's intended to ruin her as a woman. There are so many levels here. So while before I had no proof that there was any kind of malicious intent and all of that kind of stuff, I heard nothing but satire. This one is very personal. Very, very personal.
No drink no red drinks. No strawberry drinks. No cherry drinks. Nothing red. Then a ramp. If you put ready in your food. But me I tell you, say, me need to do something fast about this. I'm afraid if you all left me yard, me can't go around people. Because me come out of my yard, everybody start calling their nose. Oh, me sitting stink. Me something, me little something. It stink? Stink bad, man. All fly and follow me. If me not careful a little bit, Francis, I jump and start pitch out for me, I'll stop there. The way it's missing stink and a rotten off.
You're there.
You rotten it a rotten off. I want to make me not go to the doctor already, you know. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm afraid. Every time I think about going to the doctor, I say, no, sir. I can't go amongst people with this, yeah. It's stink bad, man. If I'm going to go around this girl.
Now, you know what I found very, very interesting about this charge? See, click, listen to this. Why didn't the lady go for him for defamation? Listen carefully. Why he never go for him? Why she never go for him for defamation? Why she chose malicious communications? Why? Because my malicious communication can apply even when there is truth. This is what, because I was saying to myself, so why she never, if these things are not true, why she never said that this man defamed him and went and go for him for defamation? Why did she choose the Malicious Communications Act to charge him with? Possibly something did happen. Maybe something did off downstairs and something contract or something pass, right? But I don't know about they put things in a food thing. Maybe she said it in jest. Maybe it is true. Me not know, because there are women who do those things. There are women who do those things. But him putting it out there and putting it out there for the world to judge her and to drag her is indeed harmful, very dangerous. You understand? But anyway, I'm not going to go too far into this video. I'm going to play the other one. All right.
Told a man to trick them. And this one where you now look on right, just saw one of them. See one of them, yeah? Who no look on her good. Who no see how she look decent. Like she can't my chance. Like a nice Christian girl. Beware. Beware. All the men them out there. You know, like
True
when
Rogue.
you see some sign where say, beware of bad dogs. Well, this what you're looking at right here is a very bad dog.
Oh my
Very
God.
bad dog. I don't know if it's Rottweiler. Well, this past dog still, you know. This gonna drunk, bro.
Carlos, you can message me on Facebook. Now he's playing this, and he has this young lady's picture up while he's telling everybody to beware. He has this lady's pictures up and her video telling the world to beware of this bad dog, right?
We need some sign now to put up. Some sign to put up as a yard. We say beware bad jankros and fear yard. Is in a place in St. Catherine named St. Jago Acres that are off the Sligoville main road. When you go to Sligoville there.
So the man, I'm going to skip this part. The man then decides to put out her address. Now, okay, it may not be she lives in 121, whatever. He's not been specific, but he has now declared the area where the girl lives, telling everybody the full region and area and household where the lady lives. Now, think about it. You have some sick and deranged people out there in the world. And we don't know her circumstance, who she's involved with outside of him, who she went on to be involved with. We don't know. And when he says things like this now, we don't know if there's another man out there who wants to come contact her and say, listen, you pass this on to me. Me don't know. People take life as small and ridiculous things. Is this not a criminal intent to ensure that the public knows exactly who this girl is and where she can be found? And if somebody has an intention to harm her, wouldn't it be very easy at this point? Because Jamaica not so big. Misty Brown says he's even damaging himself. No woman will want to be with him after hearing this about him. Common sense gone out the door on social media. This is focus. Carrie says, me only sorry for her if She had no idea about this man and the other lady situation. I'm telling you.
I'm going to put it up our gate, over our gate post. Beware bad drunkard. Her name is Crystal Allen. Kristal.
Man has spell it enough, people. The man has spell it enough. So him say where she live. He's encouraging people to go and put signs outside of her door. Isn't that possibly a threat? Not necessarily a threat to life, but a threat to her safety. He is encouraging others to go out and cyberbully her. And yes, indeed, Misty Brown, to make her a target. Now, serious something this.
Allen. Crystal Allen. No look on her good. And a normal smarty. Nice, decent girl. Anybody look at her, or if you even come in contact with her, you're going to think that she's a saint. But this is the devil. The devil, you look on ya. Go around tricking men. And all they're offering up is their little recycled, overused tuntun.
Now, I don't know if this subsequent video was done after he had been to the doctor's office. Because now he's not talking about, I don't know what this girl give me and maybe she give me and I don't know if she give me. Now him blatantly tell her, say her front, condemn. So I'm wondering if this is after. I'm just wondering. But now he's putting it out as a blatant message that there's something wrong with her.
Because you don't have nothing else for a man more than the man body feel good for a few minutes. That's all I know for offer. But to act like so a whole man at ransom for no floxy front. Uno front has been recycled over and over and over again. The amount of traffic we go through them for the front. The amount of mileage we go through the front.
But sir, you went there too. So you never mind.
Men to ransom because uno feel say every man frightened for front. This ya one ya. And she have one friend.
Hear this
Her
now.
friend named CJ. Look like a tumble toad. When she a walk, she a roll like a caterpillar. You know.
So now if somebody had a doubt about who she is, now that he's gone and called the friend's name, remember, we spoke about the harm going through the recipient of the malicious communication to others. Now the friend is equally placed in harm's way by him even mentioning her in this situation, as though they are partners in crime. Why? 119, you're in a problem. You're in a big problem. Very, very big problem. There is no way you're going to avoid. Now, somebody mentioned that the fine might be minimal and nothing much may come of it. Quite possibly, because it goes up to, so, we don't know how it might go. And he may have to argue that in court. Today, it could be extreme too, depending on who she has on her side legally to defend her.
Caterpillar roll. And so she don't look good, so I know she a con man. I don't know that one there con man. This I have a picture of show her she. Never get a picture of she. But a caterpillar living self that when that a move. And the one ya. This one ya do you see she looks so nice and decent. And sexy, she sexy. Any man will go for her and thinks she has money. Oh God, you see when she catch in her copper claw. When this girl a copper claw was older men and go after may the good Lord help to stay far from her. She look good from the outside, but her body they not too. Her body shape out, but he loose, shaky. Her body shaky, she's a shake like a porridge. Her body a shake, he leg them and he and them shake like a porridge. So it's porridge and caterpillar. Porridge and caterpillar par. And that's all like something you can eat. Porridge with caterpillar. You wanna try it on yummy? Try no eat this time porridge and caterpillar that be I tell you. You must respect men. You must start to respect men. You have nothing to
Wow.
man virtue.
So he then went on. He's extremely disrespectful. Yes, very, very disrespectful. Very disrespectful indeed. Very disrespectful. But you see, it's important to separate the disrespect, the offense from the intent to harm. This part, not so much so. But certainly the first video in combination with this video and the fact that he continues to give essentially dox her by putting out personal and legal information about her, makes her a target, makes her easily identifiable through the use of her images, etc. All of these things combined are worthy of a case, in my opinion. All I'm saying is, you see, the Jamaican version of the malicious communications law is not something to play with. And while in this case, it looks like there is some serious grounds to the point where he's now trying to raise funds, legal funds, in order to fight it through his platform. It's also a lesson for many of us when it comes to what is said and how it's said and etc., etc., and to recognize that in Jamaica, you can be arrested for the truth, for the very truth that you speak. It does not have to be a lie. And it should not be confused with the Defamation Act. It should not be confused, because defamation and slander and libel and all those things are things that are not necessarily true, but that can cause harm to reputation. But the Malicious Communications Act can be about your intent to harm and could also be about the truth, but used in a way that can cause harm. Be it obscene truth that can cause harm, or, just in a way that it brings threats to that person's life, or it causes that person's reputation to be, to be questioned in the public eye. You have got to be careful what you say and how you say it out there, particularly in Jamaica, because it doesn't work like that quite so much in the UK. I don't know about America, but in Jamaica, they are taking some pretty extreme steps, and in a way that would justify those arrests that we have seen the Prime Minister actually execute when people come online and say all kind of things about him. You understand? So one thing he did say that I do agree with is that because it's written in such a broad way, it gives the opportunity for many people to fall under consequences where they can be arrested for it. And it can be the simplest thing, but the onus is on proving that it has caused harm, that there was a criminal intent. And if that person can prove it, worse when you go and do things like flinging up people's picture and all of that, and calling out legal names and talking about where they live and all those kind of things, then you go cook. You go cook, and if you can't afford a lawyer, then whoever it is, the complainant, can really bring lots of evidence to talk about how distressing it has been and how much harm it has caused them, and rack up your fine to the highest, or get you arrested and imprisoned. Imagine a prison sentence for up to 20 years as a result of saying things like this. Boy, 119, I wish him the best. I hope he has learned his lesson. He has a fight on his hands, and we should definitely be here for it, for me, because I want to see the outcome of this case. It's really lit my interest. Um, because it's one thing when you're dealing with cybersecurity and the use of data and fraud and scams and stuff like that, and how the system responds to that, and how legislation responds to that. But it's another thing when it comes to situations like this, because we know that TikTok, Facebook, so many places are filled with people who do these things every single day, every day. YouTube. Um, but there are so many complications when it comes to proving these things, when it comes to international boundaries. How do you go about suing somebody who's in a different country, who you can't necessarily locate? All of that, it's not so straightforward. But within the island of Jamaica itself, bloggers, you need to be aware of this. This is serious. This is serious. You have to be very careful. If you are going for people that are within that country, you can be found and you can definitely face consequences. Carlos says him sue a police and get, yes, he did speak about the fact that he did do that because whatever he was arrested and charged with, the case was either thrown out or dismissed, or there was insufficient grounds or something like that. And he turned right around and he sued and he got millions off the police. He should want to go and beg. No, after the case, people will know everything, the real truth. The fox and the sour grape, the devil go with him. Yes, there's going to be a lot that will come out of this. But, there's also the fact that we have to consider that maybe there's more to the story, in that whatever truth he has told may also be tainted, meaning he may have missed out information that's crucial in terms of where everything conspired, because she may not be the source of whatever it is he's complaining or alleging about. It could be as a result of his other activities, and who catch what is another thing that might be up to debate if anything goes up, right? But like I said, it is interesting that she didn't go for defamation, but she went for malicious. Big up yourself, yard swag. It's interesting that they went for malicious communications and not defamation, which implies that there is some truth, because this is where the malicious communications is useful. How do we say that truthful things have caused us harm in the public eye? You could use that. So you don't have to be a liar. You don't have to be embellishing the truth. You don't have to be making things up in order to get yourself into problems. And that in itself brings the question of censorship under the microscope, because really and truly, is it that our truths are now going to be censored by this law to the point where you can't express what has truly taken place, even if it is harmful to that person, but it is justified? At what point do you draw the line between you speaking the truth on a public platform and you intentionally trying to harm somebody? Because if you are speaking the truth and it has resulted in all of this, the obscene threats, a menace, if it has resulted in all of this, but it is the truth, why should the truth be silenced? So there's so many ways that we can question this and interrogate the law itself and how it impacts on freedom of speech and expression. And why has Jamaica taken this stance, to stop people's truths from being discussed in a public way? Is it that there is a way that it can be discussed, as long as it's not done without these consequences? And who determines these consequences? I know there was a recent case of defamation where a journalist was concerned, and the Gleaner, where a politician basically said that the Gleaner caused him harm to his reputation, and that there was defamation, and there is a new thing with that as well. I was listening to it earlier, but this is, as I said, very different. Malicious communication, she deliberately chose this, and my rationale for this deliberate choice is that there is no defamation, but that there is a truth, and that the truth is being used with criminal intent. Anyway, I really hope that you then how HDK sound like Antoinette Horton Cardenas. Listen, big up yourself, little brother. Me see you all day, you know, my love. You look like you had a good time. Look, we are concerned about this, and I think everybody should be concerned about this, especially if you are a blogger, especially if you're a blogger in Jamaica and you're one of those bloggers that goes for people. You have to be concerned about it. And it is only a matter of time before it starts to have an impact on how you deliver your content. So, we like to educate ourselves over here, and we also like to look at the law. Um, Now, I know there's a lot of personal feelings where he's concerned. 119 is not liked by a lot of people. Um, but I'm trying to set aside personal feelings and look at the raw truths in terms of how the law can impact on a wider level of people. It can be useful, yes, because there are people out there who use the truth recklessly. And we have to be careful of that. Carlos says, I know most of it. I'm not even hiding my name. I don't do Facebook. At Caymanas Park race horse track, it started. Won't say much. Okay, Carlos. Okay, I see what you're saying. And you're not hiding your name. Okay, Carlos, feel free to reach out to me because, this is something serious. Yeah, Lico Brata says, "Oh my God, holiday was pure awesomeness. That's great. I'm glad you had a good time, sweetheart. You deserve that." Him putting out medical and personal information in public is careless. Yes, it is. Yeah, yes. Because even if something went wrong, in terms of health situations, then hello, you're disclosing somebody else's medical records as well. So yeah, there's this whole thing about the HIPAA law, and well, I don't know how much that applies to the public, but it certainly applies to medical professionals. Um, but I think that there's some degree of confidentiality that ought to be respected when it comes to other people. Big up yourself, Linda G. Bless. Yes. Young people pay to learn until they know who they're associated with. Yes, they do. Malicious Communication Act is also part of Canadian law. Yeah. Social spectator, I wonder if in the Canadian law, though, it's used in the same way. Um, but I do remember, if you guys remember, think back to when, do you remember when Auntie Donna had that whole big fracas thing with Dolly? Do you remember with Dolly? What did they call her again in Planka Shop? The young lady who is trans, and that became evident later on via TikTok. What were they calling her again? I cannot remember. Is it the upsetter or the disturber or something like that they were calling her? But she basically almost got into legal entanglements, and she graciously decided not to pursue it, which she did say on my platform that she's not going to pursue it. I respect her for that because it was all a big, huge misunderstanding. But I had to make it clear that she had a case at the time, because of the things that were said and how it was said, and then the impact on the platform. So in a way, that was a part of the Malicious Communications Act, and how what you say can cause harm, but what needs to be proven beyond doubt is that it was intended. And that's where I think that case would have been weak, because it was not intended, it wasn't intentional. And steps were taken afterwards to rectify the situation. So it's one thing to have a charge, it's another thing to have it brought before the courts, and prosecution decide to follow through with it. As the act says, it needs to be proven beyond any reasonable doubt that there was criminal intent. So the disturber, that's right. So we need to be aware of things like this and how it can impact on how we deliver our message. And what is said, I'm learning. I'm sure you're all learning, and there are some people who are yet to learn. So, we pride ourselves in being fully adaptable, and we try to operate within the law, because there are things that will impact us in the diaspora, especially if you know that you are also equally a Jamaican citizen and you end up going back to the island, there's nothing to stop you getting arrested upon arrival. Okay. People may know who you are, where you are, and so on, and send the police for you because whoever it is that you said these things about are present in the island. And they land you with a case. So there are so many ways that this can actually be used to get justice for those who think they are victims of malicious communication. Everyone commits an offense who, with intent to alarm or annoy a person, makes an indecent communication to that person or to any other person by means of telecommunication. Yep. Yes, indeed. Yes. Social spectator. It just gets worse. It gets more and more intense, the kind of things that they want to include, right? And how they wish to go forward with it. And I'm sure there are certain things that are still being defined and added to the Cybercrimes Act. Because remember, they're talking about cyber threats, cyberbullying, webjacking, phishing, spoofing, spamming, and social engineering, as well as cyber stalking. And there's so many cyber stalkers out here, people who just all up in other people's lives and use their information and use their images and use their pictures and use their stuff to actually defame them and to destroy their reputations out here. And Facebook is one of the worst places for it, in that you literally go around in circles trying to prove that you're being bullied or you're being cyber stalked or any of that, and they just do not take it seriously unless you present them with legal documents. The same, YouTube's not so bad. YouTube does follow up on certain things, but you have to get things like court orders and stuff like that, which is a process to take down people's content if you consider it to be a legal matter of defamation and slander and libel. So there's a lot there that can happen, and all of us are subject to it. It can happen to any of us, but it's just being aware of how the laws have changed and how things are now being managed, to the point where they're trying to really encompass everything that happens on social media. So it's only a matter of time before even TikTokers end up starting arresting other TikTokers based on things they said and their intentions. It's only a matter of time, These young ones, they're caught up in the banter and the stuff and all of that. But when serious life decisions need to be made and something that has been said ends up impacting on their future prospects, that's when they're going to settle and think, hang on a minute, maybe I need to take this seriously, because now it's impacting on how I actually earn, how I live. When it gets to a point where somebody said something and then you end up being threatened in a real life, yes, and somebody nearly take your 3 points or whatever, you may start thinking, hang on, where did this come from? Or it's come from that person who said this. I need to get this sorted out. So you see, there's going to be a very big change in how people handle people's contents within the island itself. And this case is going to be used as what you would say, the blue flag going forward of how people create content. You have to be careful. People run their mouths recklessly. Now, when fire their must tail, they start seeking funds online to help with legal fees. Yes, I got him over there, do my loves. His latest video, he's asking people to contribute to the legal fund. Good luck with that, 119. I'm sure your hardcore supporters will come forward and support you. I did see some people commenting on Facebook that, the supporters are there for you. But I'm also pretty certain that you will have to definitely fight very hard to prove that there was no criminal intent. Based on what I'm seeing, though, I think the young lady has a case. If this is the young lady, she has a case. She has a serious case, sir. And you have got to do better. As a journalist, you ought to know that doxing is not okay. You don't just put out where people live and their full legal name and then, make all these kind of horrible allegations against somebody without repercussion. I think that even if these things were true, and you and this young lady were involved in relationship, you ought to have dealt with that offline. That would have been the more manly and gentlemanly thing to do, because yes, it will set the precedent. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, now the courts are going to try and make an example out of you to show Jamaica that the Malicious Communications Act is real. They're going to do it, because remember, you've also offended some serious people who are attached to the legal framework of the island. Remember, Yes. And you don't know who is pressing those buttons and insisting that you end up with a serious penalty for your reckless comments. And while it is that it would be considered satirical and banter, even if offensive and distasteful in other countries and in the global eyes of the internet, the reality is in a Jamaica, connections run things. We're not stupid over here. We know connections run things. And you know that too. Especially as a journalist or an ex-journalist. You know this too. So, you're about to step into a domain where there's a whole lot of connections with people you have offended greatly. God go with you, sir. No, sir. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Couldn't his outing of alleged infection be considered revenge P? No. Different definitions, really. Revenge P is blatantly putting out sexual images or video footage of people. So that's a little bit different. Okay. So the law is very, very black and white. It's not gray. It's very clear about what definitions are about certain things. So it doesn't end up in that category, I'm afraid. He'd get the $40 fine too for putting out her picture, but and even so, revenge P, as I showed you, it doesn't incur that much of a offense, a consequence in Jamaica. A monkey money, $40 nothing. Me never know if anything in a Jamaica sell for $40 again. No, sir. Yeah, not even sweetie you can get for $40. Where you can get for $40 Jamaica now? Anyway, people, I hope you have found this stimulating, that it's given you some food for thought, and that you've learned something from the live. Please make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you are new to my channel, so that whenever I go live, you get that notification. Big up on a nice, clean self, graduates. As I said, we're going to keep an eye on this case because, yeah, I am interested. I want to know more about this. And we will keep bringing you updates. All right. This is your girl, HTTK, and I'm out. Like up the live, people, and drop them purple hearts as we exit.